Hey everyone, welcome to Compound Action, how small actions create massive change. I'm Corey Applin, and this is going to round out my holiday travel edition here. Still on vacation, but I wanted to push out some really good information for you. This will be a shorter, more condensed episode, but I'm going to pack a lot of information into it. Today, I'm going to be talking about vitamin D. Now, why did I put magnesium ahead of vitamin D in terms of my number one recommended supplement? It's simply because 75% of Americans are deficient in magnesium, whereas only 42% are deficient in vitamin D. And I don't want to minimize that too much. 42%, that's still a massive number. I mean, you line people up in a row, 4 out of 10 are still going to be deficient in vitamin D. So we're going to go over why so many people are deficient, why that's important, what does vitamin D do in the body, some steps that you can take to increase your vitamin D levels, and I actually have a little like surprise vitamin at the end that is related to vitamin D that's really important too. So definitely stick around for that. So, number one on the list, why are the deficiency rates so high in America? Number one would definitely just be the amount of time that Americans are spending indoors. We need this UVB from the sun. It goes into our skin and causes our body to produce vitamin D. A lot of people don't know this. Vitamin D is considered a hormone. It can be produced in your own body. You don't have to get it from dietary sources, but because people are stuck inside, they're working all day, they're not as exposed to the sun, and that can over time cause a reduction or deficiency in vitamin D. Another reason would just be geographic location. Because that UVB radiation is so important, people that live at higher latitudes, they're going to receive less of that UVB radiation. So they're going to produce less vitamin D naturally in their own body. That's going to be especially true in the winter months. Number three is skin pigmentation. So people with darker skin, they have more melanin. This reduces the skin's ability to produce vitamin D from sunlight. So the darker the skin, the harder it is to produce your own vitamin D. Number four is dietary intake. Since there's few foods that naturally contain vitamin D, I'll definitely cover the ones that do. Not everyone is consuming these foods, and so they're just not getting any dietary sources. And last on the list is the rise in obesity. So vitamin D is a fat soluble molecule, meaning it can be sequestered, trapped inside of fat tissue, making it less available to circulate around and help the body in those overweight individuals. So why is this important though? Like, why should you care? It's because vitamin D has a significant role in a lot of different systems of our body. So I'm going to run you through the list. Part one is our digestive system. So vitamin D influences the absorption of calcium. That's why it's recommended all the time to help prevent osteopenia, osteoporosis, those types of things, because we got to be able to get the calcium from our digestive system into our bloodstream. So vitamin D helps to transport the calcium across that barrier, get it circulating through the blood. It also helps to get phosphorus from the digestive tract into our bloodstream. So kind of next thing on the list, correlated, is vitamin D, because it's essential for calcium absorption in the gut. And we need that calcium to maintain healthy bones. It's also important for our skeletal system. It also, this tends to not be a problem, at least here in America these days, but it does prevent rickets in children and osteomalacia and osteoporosis in adults by promoting this bone mineralization. It does not act alone here. I'm going to go over another nutrient that's really important here in the end. So the next thing on the list is its effect on the immune system. So vitamin D enhances the pathogen fighting effects of monocytes and macrophages. It also decreases inflammation. So it's critical for the activation of T cells, which play a really key role in the immune response. So oftentimes, if you find yourself just like getting sick and sick all the time, vitamin D deficiency could be playing a role there. We also have its effects on our muscular system. So it's going to improve muscle strength and muscle function. And it also helps influence muscle contraction by regulating those calcium levels inside the muscle cells. So it seems like this correlation between vitamin D and calcium, has all these other effects because of that correlation. Vitamin D also impacts your cardiovascular system. So it has receptors that are present in our heart and blood vessels. So it helps to regulate blood pressure, inflammation, and glucose metabolism, which ultimately is what's going to help support cardiovascular health. As I'm going through this list, it feels like deja vu. It's pretty much the same list that I went over, all the positive impacts of magnesium, different mechanisms, but same systems that it does have a positive role in. So really important to have adequate levels of both the magnesium and the vitamin D. Vitamin D is also going to play a really important role in our endocrine system through the regulation of our parathyroid hormone, which in turn regulates calcium levels in the blood. It's also going to influence insulin secretion and sensitivity. This is what's going to impact metabolism, specifically glucose metabolism, and helping regulate blood sugar levels. Vitamin D also helps out our respiratory system. It helps to modulate. We talked about the immune system, but specifically the immune response in the lungs. So this is going to reduce the risk of developing respiratory infections. So next on my list is its role in our skin health. So vitamin D helps to regulate skin cell growth, repair, and metabolism. So again, if you want really nice, vibrant, healthy looking skin, vitamin D or having adequate levels of vitamin D, I should say, is really important there. And you'll see a lot of these like facial skin creams, those types of things. A lot of times they're fortified with vitamin D specifically for that reason. The last effect is vitamin D's effect on the nervous system. So vitamin D has receptors that are found in your brain, right? Think about that. It actually, like, the receptors for vitamin D are in the brain. That's one reason how we know it's so important. It's involved in brain development and functioning. So deficiencies have been linked to like neuropsychiatric disorders. Think in terms of like cognitive issues. On the low end, it can either be like forgetfulness, brain fog. On the high end, it can be like Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, those types of things. So really, really important for our nervous system and really important for really just our body all around. Top 3 things to increase your vitamin D levels naturally. And number 1 would be sun exposure. Spending more time outdoors. This seems really obvious. It only takes about 15 to 30 minutes a few times a week. For most people, it depends on your skin type and your geographic location, but for most people to get up to an adequate level of vitamin D. Number 2 would be diet. Include foods that are rich in vitamin D. This is going to include fatty fish. Those are like the salmon, the mackerel, the sardines, and egg yolks. Number 3 is supplementation. You should definitely consider vitamin D supplementation, especially if you already know you're deficient. Especially in the winter months, that's when you're going to have limited exposure anyway. So vitamin D supplements can be really, really helpful in helping modulate and regulate the vitamin D levels. But what's this other supplement that I've been kind of alluding to that's related to vitamin D that can also be critical? It's vitamin K2. So what does K2 do? Vitamin D takes calcium, helps the body get it into the bloodstream. K2 takes it from the bloodstream and helps to deposit it into our bone. This is what helps like bind it to, this bony matrix and enhance bone mineralization and strength. It also plays a role in our cardiovascular health. Vitamin K2, it activates the matrix GLA protein. Also, it's like abbreviated as MGP, prevents calcium from depositing in the walls of blood vessels, reducing the risk of arterial calcification and cardiovascular disease. So I really want you to like frame that in your mind. Even if we have adequate calcium and adequate vitamin D, right? Vitamin D is taking that calcium, it's helping get it into our blood. If we don't have adequate K2 levels, then that calcium gets deposited into our arteries and can increase the risk of cardiovascular problems. So, D in conjunction with K2, that's going to be like the preferred way, especially if you're taking it in supplemental form. The preferred way to get it is vitamin D and K2 together. But there are some good natural sources of vitamin K2. So, number one would be dairy products, especially aged cheeses like Gouda, Brie, and aged cheddar. Number two would be fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi. That's my favorite for sure. I'm a kimchi believer, kimchi lover. I eat it almost every day. I mix it in with like my eggs in the morning. So if you don't, here's like a pro tip. If you don't like the texture of kimchi, which sometimes I have a problem with it, it's like sometimes it could be like chewing, chewing, chewing. What I do is I actually blend mine up. So I buy it, just kind of natural raw, but then I blend it up. I put it back into its container. So you're getting all those really good natural probiotics and everything. You're getting that natural source of K2, but it turns it into more of like a pate or like a sauce that I can mix in with other things. Um, Third thing on the list are meats. This is particularly organ meats like liver. I can't overstate how many nutrients organ meats have that you really just can't find anywhere else. So if you get an opportunity to have the organ meats, definitely I would encourage it. Next thing on my list would be egg yolks. And if you notice, there's a correlation here. The egg yolks, and this is especially from pasture-raised chickens, which I definitely recommend people gravitate towards. Egg yolks are also a good source of vitamin D. So that's like a double whammy there. And then last thing on my list is butter, especially from grass-fed cows. They're going to be a really, really good source of K2. Definitely for me, when I'm taking vitamin D supplements, which I do, I always take vitamin D with the K2. That way I make sure that I'm covering my bases there. And that's it for today's episode. Really, down and dirty. I hope you got a lot out of this. Definitely learned something about the importance of vitamin D and K2 in conjunction together. Stay healthy out there, and I'll catch you on the next episode.